My wife cheated on me with her boss, stole $250, $0 from our joint account, and now she's claiming she's entitled to half our house and all our savings because she's still my wife. I feel totally betrayed and lost. I never thought I'd be sitting here, writing this out, but I guess betrayal has a way of turning your world upside down faster than you can blink. It started with little things, missed calls, late nights, excuses about work that didn't quite add up, but I was blind to it all. Until the day I found the email. It was supposed to be a normal Tuesday afternoon. I had just finished a meeting and decided to check my email before heading home. That's when I saw the message from some account I didn't recognize, with a subject line that made my stomach turn: transfer confirmation. I opened it and there it was, $250, zero gone from our joint account, transferred to an account under her boss's name. Her boss, Mark. A guy I knew only as the guy she'd been working with, always friendly, always professional, until that email. I remember feeling my blood run cold. I sat there staring at the screen, trying to process what I was seeing. It didn't make sense. Why would she take that much money? And why would she do it without telling me? We had a joint account, sure, but she'd never mentioned anything about a huge transfer. That night I started noticing the little things. Her phone kept ringing late into the night. She'd get defensive when I asked who it was, claiming it was just work calls. She started coming home later than usual, claiming she was working late, but I could see the lies in her eyes. She'd brush off my concerns, call me paranoid. But I wasn't paranoid. I was starting to put the pieces together. One day I found her phone on the kitchen counter unlocked. I didn't mean to look, but I saw the message thread. It was with Mark and it was explicit. They'd been talking about meeting up after hours, doing stuff, and there were even references to sex. I saw photos she sent him, some in lingerie, some just in her bed, and I felt my stomach drop. I knew then that it wasn't just about the money. It was about her betraying me, lying too. My face every day. I confronted her that night. I told her I knew about the affair, the money, everything. Her reaction was classic. She denied everything at first, said I was crazy, that I was imagining things. Then she got angry, started yelling, calling me jealous, paranoid, insecure. She said I was overreacting, that Mark was just a friend she was helping out with some work stuff, that the money was a loan, that she never meant to hurt me. But I knew better. I knew she was lying. I saw her guilty face, her trembling hands, and I knew I couldn't trust her anymore. The shock hit me hard. I felt a mix of anger, sadness, and betrayal swirling inside. How could she do this? How could she steal from us, cheat on me, and then lie to my face? I'd given her everything, my time, my love, my trust, and she had thrown it all away for some guy. I was hurt, but I was also furious. I realized then that this wasn't just about the money or the affair. It was about respect, about whether I could ever trust her again. And honestly, I didn't think I could. After that confrontation, everything changed. The house felt colder, quieter, like the walls were holding their breath. I couldn't sleep, couldn't focus. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, that guilty look she tried to hide. I kept asking myself how I missed all the signs, how I was so blind to what was happening right under my nose. I had trusted her completely, and she had betrayed me in the worst way possible. I started digging deeper. I needed proof, something concrete I could hold on to. I hired a private investigator. It was a painful decision, but I needed to know the full extent of her lies. Over the next few weeks, I watched her routines, listened to her calls, and checked her emails. The investigator confirmed what I suspected. She was meeting Mark regularly, always after hours, always sneaking around. Their encounters weren't just about work. She was having sex with him, and I found out she'd been doing it for months. The financial aspect was even more shocking. The $250, $0 she stole, she transferred most of it into Mark's account, claiming it was for investment or a loan. But I knew better. She was funneling that money to her affair, probably to fund their weekends away, her new clothes, her secret life. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. How could she do this? How could she lie so effortlessly? The more I uncovered, the angrier I got. I started thinking about everything we had built, our house, our savings, the life I thought we shared, and I felt sick. She was claiming she was still my wife, entitled to half the house and our savings because she's still married to me. She said I should be grateful she hadn't left yet, that she was still trying to work things out. But I saw through her bullshit. She was just trying to buy time to spin her lies. She believed she was entitled to everything, even after everything she'd done. I remember the night I finally lost it. I sat her down, told her I knew about the affair, the stolen money, everything. Her reaction: she started crying, then calling me names, said I was controlling, jealous, insecure. She told me I was overreacting, that I was making a big deal out of nothing. She insisted she still loved me, that she'd never cheat, that the money was just a mistake, a misunderstanding, but I wasn't buying it. I looked her in the eyes and saw the truth. She was a liar, a manipulator, someone who had been cheating, stealing, and lying for months. That night I felt something shift inside me. The betrayal was so deep, so raw, I knew I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay. I realized I had two choices. I could stay and try to work through it, hoping she'd change, or I could cut her out completely and start over. Honestly, I was leaning toward the latter. I couldn't see a way back from this, not after everything I'd discovered. My trust was shattered, and I was left to pick up the pieces of a life I thought was solid. I was hurt, angry, and exhausted. But I also knew I had to decide what was best for me moving forward. The days that followed were a blur. I threw myself into action, not just to get answers, but to regain some sense of control. I contacted my bank, froze our joint accounts, and started the process to recover the stolen money. I knew it wouldn't be easy, especially since she'd already moved most of the cash into Mark's account. But I wasn't going to let her get away with it that easily. I also hired a lawyer to understand my legal options. The idea of her claiming half the house, even after everything, made my stomach churn. She had no right. She'd betrayed me, stolen from us, and lied through her teeth. Meanwhile, she kept up her act, acting innocent when I confronted her about the money and the affair. She'd cry, say she was sorry, and beg me to forgive her, claiming she was confused or under pressure. But I saw through her. I knew she was just trying to manipulate me to keep her grip on whatever she thought she still deserved. She kept insisting she was still my wife and that I should be grateful she was still here, that she hadn't left me yet. Honestly, I just felt numb. The woman I loved, the woman I thought I knew, was gone, replaced by someone who lied, cheated, and stole. One of the hardest moments came when I found out she had lied about her whereabouts on the night she met Mark. She claimed she was out with friends, but I had security footage showing her sneaking into a hotel with him. That was the final nail. No more excuses, no more pretending. I realized she was willing to do anything to hide her tracks, to keep up her facade. It made me furious. How could she betray me so completely? I'd trusted her with everything, and she'd just thrown it all away for a guy who didn't care about her the way I did. I also learned she'd been secretly withdrawing money from our savings account. Another $50, $0 here, another $30, $0 there. All while telling me she was saving for the future. That was when I decided enough was enough. I couldn't stay in this toxic mess. I started planning my exit, talking to lawyers, and figuring out how to protect what was left of my assets. I told her I was done pretending, that I wanted a divorce, that I wanted her out of my life. She responded with more tears, more lies, more accusations that I was heartless and trying to ruin her. But I knew the truth. She was the one trying to destroy us, and I was just trying to salvage what little I could. That entire week was a whirlwind of emotion: anger, sadness, betrayal, and finally, a sense of clarity. I realized I'd been a fool for so long, ignoring the warning signs. I'd given her my trust, my love, my money, and she had repaid me with lies and theft. I had to let go, even if it hurt like hell. I started making plans to move out, to start over somewhere far away from her manipulations. I wasn't sure what the future held, but I knew I couldn't stay. Not after discovering the full extent of her betrayal. I'd been played, used, and discarded like yesterday's trash. But I was done being a victim. It was time to take back control of my life, even if it meant walking away from everything I'd ever known. The day I finally moved out felt like the heaviest day of my life. I packed up my clothes, a few belongings, and left the house I had poured so much into. The house that I thought was our sanctuary turned out to be a prison built on lies. As I was loading my car, she was in the kitchen, acting like everything was normal, like she hadn't just lost her marriage, her reputation, and probably her future. Her bitchy attitude was still there, trying to guilt-trip me with accusations that I was overreacting or that I was throwing away what we had. She kept insisting she was still my wife, still entitled to everything, as if her cheating and stealing were just minor mistakes. I couldn't even respond to her at that moment. I just wanted to get away. I knew I'd have to face the legal battles ahead, but for now, I needed distance. I drove to a friend's place where I could breathe and start sorting through what needed to be done. The emotional toll hit me hard. I kept replaying the moments I caught her lying, the times I overlooked her suspicious behavior, the signs I refused to see. It felt like I'd been hit by a freight train. How could someone I loved so deeply betray me like this? How could she lie so effortlessly, steal from us, and then have the audacity to act innocent? In the days that followed, I met with my lawyer. We discussed the legal angles, how to protect my remaining assets, how to get the divorce underway, and how to handle her claim to the house and the savings. She was trying to assert her rights because she insisted she was still my wife, even after everything she'd done. My lawyer explained that unless she could prove she contributed financially or that she had some legal claim, she had no grounds to claim half of everything. It was a relief to hear that, but I knew the fight wasn't over. She was manipulative, and I was sure she'd try to twist things in her favor. Meanwhile, she started making appearances, showing up at the house, calling me, sending texts, trying to guilt me into staying. She'd cry on the phone, claiming she was sorry, saying she'd changed, that she loved me. But I was past that point. I'd heard enough lies to last a lifetime. I knew her game. She was trying to keep me hooked, to keep her claws in what was left of our life together. I told her I wanted nothing to do with her until she stopped lying and took responsibility for her actions. That only made her more angry, more bitchy, accusing me of ruining her life because I found out the truth. The financial damage was staggering. I had to start the process of recovery, which meant going after the stolen money, trying to trace it through various accounts, and dealing with the inevitable legal battles. I had lost a lot: money, trust, the sense of stability I once had. But I also gained clarity. I realized how much I'd sacrificed, how much I had ignored for the sake of keeping our marriage intact. I was angry at her, but I was also angry at myself for not seeing the signs earlier. I started working on rebuilding my life piece by piece. I found a new place to live, far from the toxic mess she created. I set up a new bank account, cut ties with her financially. I refused to be a victim anymore. The betrayal had cut deep, but it also pushed me to finally stand up for myself. I knew I'd need time to heal, but I was determined to move forward, even if it meant starting over from scratch. I just wished I'd seen the signs earlier so I could have protected myself better. But at least now, I was finally taking control of what was left of my life. The weeks that followed were a brutal mix of legal battles, emotional exhaustion, and trying to pick up the pieces. I spent countless hours with my lawyer, trying to figure out how to claim what's rightfully mine and to stop her from claiming half the house or our savings. She kept insisting she was still my wife, and that she deserved half of everything because she hadn't signed divorce papers yet. That bitchy attitude of hers never changed. She acted like she was entitled to everything, even after all her lies and theft. She'd show up at my new place, demanding I let her in, crying or screaming, trying to guilt-trip me with accusations that I was hurting her, that I was trying to ruin her life. I didn't care anymore. I just wanted her out of my sight. She lied nonstop, making up stories about how she was trying to fix things, how she was sorry for everything. She even claimed she was innocent, that Mark was just a work colleague, and that the money transfer was a misunderstanding. Yeah, right, I knew better. I'd seen the proof: her explicit texts, the stolen money, her secret meetings. She was just trying to spin her web of lies thicker to keep herself afloat, but I wasn't buying any of it. I had already decided I was done, that I'd fight her every step of the way to protect what was mine. The emotional toll was heavy. I felt betrayed, humiliated, furious, like I'd been played for a fool for years. I kept asking myself how I missed all the signs, how I let her get away with so much. The money she stole, $250 was gone, and I wasn't sure I'd ever recover it. But at least I was taking steps to try. I filed for divorce, and the legal process was draining. She kept fighting, claiming she was entitled to half our house and all our savings because she was still my wife. She even tried to manipulate the situation, saying she'd take me to court if I didn't give her what she wanted. That bitchy attitude, that sense of entitlement, it made me sick. Meanwhile, I started to realize that her attempts at guilt and manipulation were just her way of clinging to whatever she didn't care about us. She cared about protecting herself and her lies. The more I learned about her, the clearer it became that I'd been blind for so long. I thought I knew her, but I only knew the version she wanted me to see. Now, I was slowly accepting that I had to let go of that illusion. I had to accept that I was better off without her, even if it hurt like hell. The hardest part was facing the reality that she might win some legal battles, especially with her claiming she's still my wife and entitled to half the house. But I was prepared for that. I had evidence, I had a lawyer, and I had my own resolve. I wasn't going to let her walk away with everything after all she'd done. I'd fight her for every penny, every right, and I'd make sure she paid for her betrayal. Deep down, I knew I'd survive this. I had to. Because staying would mean letting her control my life even more, and I refused to give her that power anymore. I was done being the victim. From now on, I'd do whatever it took to rebuild my life piece by piece. Looking back now, I realize how much I underestimated her, how I let her slip into my life thinking she was the one, the person I could trust with everything. That illusion shattered completely, and I'm not sure I'll ever fully recover from it. But what I do know is that I've learned a lot through this nightmare. I learned that betrayal can come from the most unexpected places, and it's up to you to pick up the pieces and move on, no matter how shattered they are. Getting rid of her presence in my life was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. The legal battles, the financial hits, the emotional roller coaster, all of it left scars. But I also found a certain strength I didn't know I had. I started doing things for myself, working out, reconnecting with old friends, focusing on my career. Slowly, I began to rebuild my confidence and my sense of self. It's been a long road, and I still have days when I feel the sting of betrayal, but I refuse to let it define me. The biggest lesson I've learned is not to ignore the red flags. No matter how much you love someone, trust is fragile, and once broken, it's almost impossible to fully repair. I wish I had seen her true colors sooner, but I also realized that I was blinded by love, by hope. Now I see things more clearly, and I'm grateful for that clarity. It's given me the strength to walk away from a toxic, manipulative person and start fresh. To anyone else going through something similar, don't be afraid to stand up for yourself. Don't let someone else's lies and betrayal destroy your sense of worth. Protect your assets, your mind, your heart. It's painful, but it's necessary. And most importantly, remember that you're better off without someone who doesn't respect or value you. You deserve honesty, loyalty, and genuine love, not betrayal and lies. I'm still healing, still trying to trust again, but I know I'll be okay. The betrayal hurt, but it also woke me up. I'm done being a victim. I'm taking control of my life piece by piece, and I won't let her or anyone else take that away from me. The future might be uncertain, but for now, I'm just glad I finally see the truth clearly. And that's enough to keep moving forward.